slaves, right? So that's what happened in that time. And Israel becomes slave to Babylon and slave to Assyria, which is Syria today, and then Babylon is Iran and Iraq. So that's what had happened in those days, and Israel becomes no longer. They are people without a country. They are people without kings. They are people without government. So they become captive to those nations who conquer them, and then the Jerusalem, which is the capital of the Israel at the time, is all destroyed. The walls are gone, and the people living in the Jerusalem, the capital, main city, most of them were taken as slaves. So that's called captivity. Captivity means being captured, being enslaved, being under someone's power. So those are the time of captivity. Now the return. It takes about couple hundred years to the time to the Assyria and Babylon to crumble down. So they now also become no longer a nation. And then there are people who came back to Israel. So that's called the return. And so it is important to understand that return. And so once those big nations, we call the empire, two empires, Babylon and Assyria, is no longer in the existence. So Israelites are now free to come back to home, to their homeland, to Israel. So many came home, but there are those who are left living in Assyria and Babylon. So people were divided. Some come home and some remain, because they already have their fourth, fifth generation. When we come America, Chinese and Japanese is already, they are like a fifth generation immigrants, right? So first immigrants came a long time ago, and that's why the Japanese and Chinese immigrant history to America is longer than Korea. So they have fourth, fifth generation immigrants. Korea, or third generation, is the most. So they already had a fifth generation immigrants living in the land of Babylon and land of Assyria. So they wanted to just stay there. They didn't want to come back to Israel. So those people are called remnant. Remnant means those who were left, or those who decide to stay. So remnant and return. There are people who return, many, and in thousands came back home after the years of captivity. So remnants are those who were remaining or staying in the land they were, in captivity. So they were comfortable there, and they were called diaspora. Diaspora meaning those who were immigrated, or those who moved from their own country. So when we live in America, we are diaspora. We are immigrants. We are the ones who left our home country, where we were born and raised, and we are the ones who come.
Okay.
So that's the name diaspora came into the and we have also minor prophets and the major prophets. So after the age of captivity, now the prophets are rising, and these minor and major prophets, they are telling the people, after the war, after many generations of living in another country without a nation, now they come back to Israel to form a nation. And when they are suffering politically and socially, culturally, they need something new. They need hope. And that's the time when you need the idea of Messiah. Messiah is the Savior. Messiah is the one who is going to... Do we have any new students? Okay, let me give them the new sheet.
Yeah, they are new students.
Okay, welcome. You can just write your name and then check on the third one. Okay? Thank you. So that's where we need the prophets. Prophets are the ones who are telling that Messiah is coming. So we have hope in Messiah. So the major prophets are those big ones, and the minor prophets are the smaller ones. Smaller ones, it doesn't mean that they are less important, but they are as important as the major prophets. But because we call minor prophets, because they have not written the big portion of prophecy. So in the Bible, if you look in the Bible, there are the prophets who wrote only 2-3 chapters. Those are called minor prophets. And for example, as Isaiah, he wrote 60 plus chapters. So he's one of the major prophets. So that's how they divided major and minor prophets. Anyhow, what happened is they are telling Israel people, now it's time, we are going to have a Messiah soon. And what happened is, after the last prophet, they had the 400 silent years, meaning God is no longer speaking to the prophets. So, when God is not speaking, no one's going to claim that I heard from God and this is what God has said. So that's prophet's job. And the prophet hears what God tells them, and they're going to tell the people, this is what God told me. Now, for 400 years, Israelites did not have any prophecy. So they wanted to hear from God, but the communication is disconnected, and God is silent. So those are called 400 silent years. And now, when the Old Testament era is gone, the New Testament era is beginning. New Testament era begins with the prophecy of John the Baptist. If you're a Christian, you're familiar with this guy, John the Baptist. But if you're not a Christian, probably this is a very new thing. You may have heard about Jesus Christ, but you never heard about John the Baptist. That's okay. But the John the Baptist, after 400 years of silence, now God speaks. God speaks. At this time, when the John the Baptist appears, the Israel was under the Roman Empire. So Roman Empire was a big empire at the time, year 0. So they ruled most of Mediterranean and the northern Africa and part of Europe. So that was how big it was. The Roman Empire was pretty big. But it wasn't, back in the history, probably the largest empire ever existed was the empire by Genghis Khan, right? The Mongol king. That was the largest. But the Roman Empire is pretty much similar in size to that Mongolian empire, Genghis Khan's empire. So that was a big empire, and they were under, Israelites were under their care. So now, when people were under someone else's rule, in Far East Asia, for us like the Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, we know how this thing happened. So when you are under someone else's rule, you are looking for that freedom, the liberation. And this John the Baptist come and tell the people, now we are going to liberate. We are going to be free people. And the Messiah is coming. And the time is very near. So John the Baptist, he in the wilderness, say this prophecy. The time is come. Time has come. The Messiah is coming soon. And then, actually, Jesus, the Christ, the Christ means Messiah. Christ is in Greek. That's a Greek word. Greek word. And in Hebrew word, Jewish word, Messiah.
Sorry, I'm late.
Is translated into Christ. Then after Jesus Christ, we'll talk about Jesus Christ later on, so I'll go very quickly on it. And then church was born. Church is the community of believers who believes in Jesus Christ as the Son of God and as the Savior and as the Lord, most of all as the Christ. So Jesus of Nazareth, the church believes Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph, is indeed the Messiah. So the Messiahship and the Jesus is a very important topic in understanding Christianity. The major question is, if you're trying to understand Christianity, and that's what we are doing in this class, trying to understand what the Christianity is. And probably you want to ask, is Christianity is really a valid truth? So Christianity to be a true religion and a truth, you have to ask this question: is Jesus Christ really a Messiah? Is he the one who he claims to be, or is he the one where the history of Israel is waiting for? Because if you go Israel today, there are so-called fundamental Jews who are wearing those white caps and then they pray against that wall in Jerusalem. And then there are rabbis who wear this black hat and then black coat and with a long beard. Those are called rabbis, the teacher of Jewish fundamental religion. So they still believe that Messiah is to come. Messiah has never came, and they believe Jesus is not the Messiah, so they are still waiting for the Messiah, 2,000 years still. But Christians believe that Jesus of Nazareth, which Jesus who claims to be, is true. So he is the Messiah. So that's the main question. So the question is Jesus of Nazareth truly the Messiah? Anyway, so the church is the people of believers who believe that Jesus indeed is the Messiah and that he's the one who is going to save us. And then apostles. Apostles are those 12 disciples of Jesus. The designated, named, and positioned. So these are special disciples. We are, as Christians, those who are Christians, we are the disciples of Jesus. But we do not call ourselves apostles because those 12 of them, like Peter and James, John, Matthew, these are those names of disciples who became later apostle. Apostle means the one who has been sent. Who has been sent by who? Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ, at the end, before he dies, he says, you guys, when I die, I'm going to send you into the world. So that's what happened in the story. And then he designates those 12. And one of them, the Iscariot Judah, he's the one who sold Jesus to Jewish authority. So that Judah is excluded and later replaced by someone called Matthias. He replaced the position of Judah to make it 12 disciples and then apostles. So these are the apostles are the ones, the dedicated disciples of Jesus who learned directly from Jesus. Then persecution. After church was born, soon enough, it didn't take that many years, just even less than a year. In Jerusalem, they began persecution. Persecution means the authority, the government, the Jewish, the religion, they did not like what the Christianity is doing. So they were, telling Christians not to talk about Jesus Christ, Jesus as Messiah. That's wrong. That's not true. If you say so, you're going to be in prison. So that's what the persecution, first persecution looked like. Later on, the Roman authorities, they didn't like what the Christians were doing. They think it was a danger to the government and then their power. So they began persecuting them, imprisoned them, and later killed many Christians. So that's what the story of persecution is. And that persecution went on and on until year 324, where the Roman Empire claimed that Christianity is now okay in the Roman Empire. Until that happened, and the king, Emperor Constantine, he proclaimed that Christianity is acceptable, and now acceptable is our nation's religion. Until that happened, there was a constant, continuing persecution in Christian history. But that persecution did not end in the Roman Empire. Even today, in many Islamic nations, you are not free to become a Christian. And if you become a Christian, whether you may be kicked out of the family and kicked out of the country, or even killed. So persecution is still going on. In North Korea, you are not free to worship as a Christian. So that's still happening. Only the reason they are being persecuted or oppressed is because they are believers. So these things happen still in many countries. And then Jewish Christian diaspora. There were believers who were Jews, and many Jews did not believe Jesus Christ to be a Messiah. But at the time when there's Jesus and when he died and resurrected, so that's like a year AD 33 and after, right? So when Jesus was resurrected, the news spread, and some Jews they come to believe Jesus as the Messiah. So those are those Jewish Christians. Now what happened was they could not live in the land of Jerusalem or land of Judea or land of Israel. So they were not really exercise their faith in that land. Even though that was their own land, they were Israelite, they were Jews, and they were a citizen of Jerusalem, but they could not worship Jesus Christ as they wanted to. So when that happened, they decided to leave Jerusalem, and they decided to leave Judea. They decided to leave Israel. So they go to another country. Because in another country, they are not going to face that kind of persecution. So that's where the Jewish Christian diaspora happens. Many today are making that decision to leave their own country and to go to another country to exercise their faith or to be able to worship freely. So that's happening still today. So history does not end there. The Christian history of diaspora, because of your faith, continues even today. I know I can say this because this is a free country, America, and there are many Chinese believers who come to U.S. To exercise their own freedom of belief, faith, and many come as a student, but probably the main reason behind coming to state is because they want to be really true Christian. And it's sad to say, but China and North Korea are still exercising your Christianity as a believer and coming to worship. It's not that free yet, and I hope that there comes a day where the North Korea, China, or any other Middle Eastern countries will allow Christianity as a legitimate and good religion. So until then, we continue to pray. And synagogues are the place where the Jewish comes to worship. And then there were synagogues in other countries like Syria, in Greece at the time, and in Mesopotamia region, and Ephesus, Corinth. There, Jewish people had their own synagogues. And these places become the place of Christian worship, because many of them turn to Christianity. So after that, this is like an early Christianity. After Jesus died, it happens within like 60 years. So about year 100, AD 100, it becomes a different scene. And that's where the church history begins. This is an example of how some scholars, the scholars have different idea about how to divide the Christian history or church history. And this is an example. And according to this example, there's an age of Catholic Christianity. This Catholic is not the Catholic that we know of today. This Catholic means a universal church. That's a different concept. So today's Catholic Church is, we have the papal king, which is in the city of Rome, and he rules over all the Catholic churches. That's not the Catholic Church that we are talking about. So when you hear the Catholic Church, there are two different meanings. One meaning is universal church of all the believers in all the age. So that's like a global church. Catholic Church in that sense is global church. And another sense of Catholic Church is Catholic Church that we know today, compared to the Protestant belief. So in Christianity, there is two major belief system or history. One is Protestant and one is Catholic Church that we have today. So whether you're Catholic or Protestant Christian, I don't think it matters, because we believe in the same Jesus Christ. So we share the same faith. Now, that's the Catholic Church, Universal Church, age of Universal Church until year 312. That year 312 is when the Christianity made official in the land of Roman Empire. So that's the age of Christian Empire begins by AD 312 and goes on to 590 according to this distinction. And then there's a Christian Middle Age, and then there's the Age of Reformation, beginning 1517. 1517 is where Martin Luther made that famous statement, 96 statement on the gate of that famous Catholic Church against the Pope. So that's year 1517, and that's where the Reformation began. And because of that Reformation, we have something called the Protestant today. So I'm a Protestant, like a Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian. These are the this sect or section of Protestant belief. And then there's the Age of Reason and Revival. The Europe, as the Christianity influences their education, their technology, and their science, and their literature, they begin to think. Before, in the Middle Age, they were not thinking that much. The education is limited to only to the monks or those who are in the monastery. So in the monasteries, they provide the education to only few people. Other than those, most European people were farmers. They did not know how to read or write. So the education was limited, and people were not thinking. And as the Christianity influences their education, now the people were able to read and write. And with Gutenberg is a German technician who invented the metal printing. So after that, printing becomes more popular, and the books become affordable, meaning you can buy books. Before that printing was developed, books were expensive. One book may cost like one house. So you're not able to buy books, or even you're not able to read even though you have books. Then with the development of metal printing, they were able to buy books, and they were educated, and then general population, people became learners. They were educated. Today, education is free, and many countries, education is free, and you can finish your schooling until junior high or high school without paying anything to the school. But in old days, education was expensive. Not only expensive, the education was limited to only particular people. But the Europe becomes more educated, and people were enlightened. And then there comes the age of Renaissance. And the Renaissance and the Enlightenment is one very important critical factor in understanding the Christian history. So people are able to learn, they read Bible, because Bible were translated. In the old days, in the age of Middle Age, the Bible was not translated. It was in Greek, either in Greek or in Latin only. Unless you know Latin, you are not able to read the Bible. Not only that, because the Bible wasn't available that much. You have to go to church to read the Bible. So today, in your hand, if you just download the app, you have Bible in your smartphone, right? But in the old days, that wasn't possible. So they're not only were not educated, they didn't have Bible to read. In the age of Enlightenment, the Renaissance, they had Bible. The general public, they were able to read what the Bible says. So they have a different perspective about the religion. That's how the history changed. Then age of progress. With the Industrial Revolution in England, the technology develops really, really fast. And that also influences Christianity. Now, how does it influence? The Christianity becomes more popular, and the Christianity moves from England to other countries like Spain, the Latin America, in Africa, and India especially. So that's the age of progress. And then comes the age of ideology until 1990. We don't know when this ideology, age of ideology is going to end, but we are still under age of ideology, meaning there is a so-called democratic bloc in the on globe. So within this democratic blocs, most European countries, and then Canada and America are this belong to this democratic bloc. In the Asia, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, I believe Taiwan is also among those democratic bloc. And then there is a socialist bloc ideology, and we know what are some of countries. And then there is a Islam bloc, which is both ideology and religion. So these are like three major blocs now consisting the world. So we are still in the age of ideology. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll take a break, and please come back at 11. Thank you.
那个是中级班起，没有初级班。没有，有初级班。 周三上午。
哦，对对对，那跟我就冲突了。
你想换那个学校？
不是，就是学英语的。
哦，就是
他也是教会毕业。
对，他就是培训那个第二语言的。
是300吗？
不是，他就是一个教会组织的，其实就是那些老师都是义务的，然后就有爱心的那种。
那里就是那个那叫
对，就是那个，
我就是300。
哦，是吧？
我就是去300。我就是
那
在 Forest Campus 的。
就是那个 Forest 的那个吗？
我是去就是那个 Lake Forest Campus 的。
那是我
就是你去那个学校。
你是哪一个？
我没有去教会，我只是去学英语的。
是哪里学？
就是那个 Lake Forest 的那个。
Lake Forest 还是南边那个，因为它有好多个那个叫
여보세요?
聚会。
1号。Lake Forest 1号的那个。
是
的。
你在那里学？
我是周四去上的。
很好啊。
对，他周三上午是那个初级，但是他那个中级啊，速度特别快，初级速度特别慢。
예.
哎，我觉得初级非常适合我。
对，他从头到尾就很细。
저희가요?
他的向老师讲也挺好。
예.
他有的很多专业术语听不懂，因为尤其我还
是进行。
因为我还没有接触过教会这些东西，所以他讲这些神啊教的我真是。要是经常去教会，
我是 A 班。你好，你好，
我叫倩倩，大家都别信啊。
有了吗？有了，就在群里面。
예.
下次我们周2、3我们一起吃。
번호가 틀린 거 같은데.
请麦当劳啊，或者是什么的。
行啊，可以。
吃个饭。
我昨天去的那个
可以群里面
对呀，可以啊。
发一下，然后
就是那个
一起去
我不上2个吗？英文那个也行，周1但是离那边儿
交流。
周1和周1
相支持啊。
뭐 저는 지금 그 말씀하신
离尔班开车要半小时。
是住在99大。
예.
对，就那大号不远，离那儿 cover。
那你可以去南边也可以。
我就去南边。
他也有学英文的，他有几个 campus 呢？
啊，他有尔班一共2个。
对，有 North 有 South， 南边北边都有，你都可以去学。
北边那个他是
南堂是中文堂，你可以去中文堂。
对呀，他跟咱冲突了嘛，跟咱这届。
他周2上午。
对，他周2上午冲突了。
那北堂是星期3。
不，周2他还有一个星期3的在南堂。
对。
我去那个。
对，你去了吗？
我去了。
已经去了。
去了。
对。
然后那个北堂就是那个 Lake Forest 那个我跟不上，因为星期3的他冲突了。
对，
跟星期2的他是初级。
星期2是星期4是中级。
对。
我就去明天那个中级去是中级。你应该没事，我坐到飞机。
因为他初级，我觉得我已经就是正适合我。对，中级我可能。
他中级速度特别快，其实内容倒不是很难，但是他进度太快，就是1堂到2个小时，一会儿干这个，一会儿干这个。你学高级的？
那我试试。
对呀，是啊。
学高级的。
你学高级吗？那个课程还挺大的。
我去试试。
我不知道你那个怎么样。
星期4也是星期4。
不，你要高级就星期1。
高级星期1可以。
就那个 Forest 的那个，对。
那我就去那儿呗。
就直接不用。
你就是必须得读高。
对，然后他那个交10块钱材料费，给很多材料，就是很有用，就自己在家就哪怕
买不到的。
对，你就拿那东西回家自学都挺好。他给那个就是那个报纸，就是带那个单词翻译，那个挺好。
或者我就是给一个这个。就给这个。
然后我在那个营地的那个。
那在哪里报名啊？就是还是随便报名的。
就是去那个什么，你去那个教会，跟前台说你要学 ESL， 你要上这个课。
网上报不行。
就网上我知道，我就是对，我
一个当时去了就能上。
对，你就赶着那个点去，周1的9点半。
9点半在哪里？
我给你发地址。
你发个地址。不是，就是他那个，他不是很多个那个 tank 吗？很多个就是那个聚集的。
我就知道这一个地方。
那我有。
有啊，
对
对那个 tank，对，我可以去看看它的高级列拜怎么样。
平等，就是不知道你用不用去上。
我呢，我 recap， 一个是那个单词量要增加，另外还有就是讲多一点。
对，
我听呢现在还可以，基本上都听得懂。
哪个图像是你这个？
我现在是
这个
带词。
我也是这种，我就是听得懂，但是说不出来，因为这个词儿就忘了怎么说了，想不起来，
哎，
词汇量不够，其实。
这个思路量不够。
一个是词汇量多，一个是还是讲的少。
就这个啊，这个全部的都在对的。
哦，好的好，谢谢。
我等我回家以后，然后你去教堂的教会的时候，你给我发个地址，我看看我家那儿离你家近，离你那儿近还是离我那儿近？
我现在就发给你了，
我没事儿没法试。
我刚才用的是。怎么拼的姐那个名字？
我啊，ABA，
不是对啊，对，就那个
A 吧
A 就直接就是这是你的微信上是吧？啊，找到了，
找到了吗？行。我住那个，我是住在那个普托拉斯林斯。
那你离那它很
对，
近的。
也离那个森林湖近，那不就是那个森林湖的尔湾交界处吗？
对对
对啊，那你离他那儿近。我离那儿其实也不远。
你也住那
我住这儿的 ranch 就 Mission View，我离那儿近，我离科营地。
我看如果要是离你那儿近，我就赶紧上你那儿那个时候就那边出去。你去吗？
去了，我现在改。
중간고사는 없고요. 그 메인 퀴즈가 있거든요.
看看，因为我的地方实在
퀴즈가
太远。
총 8개가 나갈 거예요.
我发给你了，你看
没人
看。
的，
아니요. 클래스에서요.
这个我
这儿你也要看到这个。
그거가 이제 한
我觉
개가
得看了看到
2점씩
这个
돼요.
就是这个森林湖这儿你
그러면
要
토tal
看。
16점 플러스 4점은 이제 기본으로 드리는 거고, 그럼
他
그거
那种弄好
20점하고
还是
그다음에
我
참석
们家去，
클래스
我
온
是走
거가
那个
참석하시는
收费公
조건
路，就5分
5점.
钟6分钟。
네, 그래서
133。
출석만
131
하셔도
还
패스는
是几来
你
着？
看
퀴즈
24
보고 파이널이 있어요. 파이널이 20점. 네. 그러니까 뭐 패스 못하실 클래스는 아니고.
어려워요?
아니요. 그 퀴즈에서 나와요. 똑같이.
아 그래요?
그러니까 퀴즈 본 거를 이제 답을 정답을 다 드리거든요. 그러니까 그거 두셨다가 나중에 파이널 하기 전에 그냥 공부하시면 되고. 지난 클래스 같은 경우 클래스 안 온 친구들은 이제 F가 됐지만은 클래스 나온 분들은 다 B 이상. 어려운 클래스는 아니에요.
퀴즈는 날마다 이렇게
매번
그럼 지금 2개 나온 거예요?
하나 지난주에 하나 받고 오늘이 두 번째 퀴즈. 그 지난 거는 못 보셨으니까 뭐 인천 빠지시면은
我也是跟着
이제
现
보시면은
在改变。
因为我有一个朋友他
이 제목이 뭐 우리 이제
拿学生签
크리스티애니티에 대한 거니까 좀 어떻게 교회 출석하세요? 그렇진 아니고 그래서 상관없어요. 뭐 그런 분들이 대부분이니까
那个学
이제
校的前
그
校长。
기독교가 이런 거다라고 이제
如果可以
그
就是
설명을
写
드리는
啊，如果可
거니까
以通过中介特别的那样。
교재보다 이제 이 요거가 좀 더 자세하게 이제 파워포인트가 되어 있는데 그냥 우리가 알고 있는 기본 상식적인 수준에서 제가 강의드리는 왜냐면 뭐 컬리지이기 때문에
因为我自己也没认识。
들으시면 그냥 편하게 들으실 수 있어요. 걱정 마세요.
你就看谁家的律师便宜，毕竟专业律师还是要对。
那你也是这样？
我妹子在这等。
也是
我自己也不是特别技术。
技术也低。
不是做生意的，没有钱投资。
技术已经很牛了。
我老公他是做汽车的，但是没有，所以在等嘛。
申请多久啊？这个？
我们已经申请1年了吧，再等2年。就是我们 们这个一般都等3年。
是
B3
B3，待在这里的，在这里的
你
B3，
其实也可以在国内的，都行。
那你们在这里
对，我们是因为我2个女儿要上学了，我们就来这儿等。要不然，
那你现在也来啊？
来了，他说咱俩一起，
他就是 B，他就是 F2，对，这是多方面。
Okay, let's begin the second section of today's class. 실러버스를 안 받으신 분들이 있겠다. I'll get the syllabus up.
写那个，就是这个报告，写报告。
写报告吗？不是给
然后是10月29号交。
哦，不能改的。
一个 page
一个玩意儿啊
这个可以 see 看。这是什么？
아 저거 저 기독교 서점 가면은
네.
거의 다 있을 거예요. 온라인 중이나 저기.
Can you explain this?
The book report? Uh-huh.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there are 2 book reports due. One on 29th, the other one just right before the last week and the final week. And this book, The Basic Christianity, I'm sure there's a Chinese version as well. And this is a very famous book by John Stott. And if you Google or in Amazon, you can find it. It's only probably 100 pages, a small book. So you can just read it and do not summarize it. I don't want you to summarize the book. I mean, I know the content. So you read it and tell me about your reflections. I mean, how you. So new student who did not get the syllabus.
From last week or?
That's I given you the very first week.
I got one.
You got it one.
This one?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I got
This
it.
one?
Did you already get it?
So we have to buy this
Mhm.
book.
Or you can read it online sometimes.
Oh, online.
You have an online version, probably free somewhere.
Okay.
So
I got it.
you have it.
Thank
那
you.
因为这个书，这个书，这个书，
And there's a
有中文版的，他说。
other language versions are available. I'm sure there's a Japanese version and Chinese version as well, both in Mandarin and Guangdong. So just find it and read it and do not summarize. Just read it and your reflection, how you felt it, and what's your idea. You can agree with it. You can also disagree with some of it, and it doesn't matter. But do not do this. Some people last class they just copied something from the internet and put on their report. That's minus grade. If you do that, you better not give any report to me. So that's for you. Question?
So the report need to print
or just handwriting?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
As long as I can read it.
Okay.
So just one page, double space,
Okay.
letter 10 size. So letter 10, size letter 10, double space. So it's not much. I mean, just one couple paragraphs. That's about it. But it is important. Put your idea, your thinking, and I don't expect a good English because some of you are just learning English, and I understand that. I've been through that. My first report was very bad. So don't worry about the English, but try to put whatever you can. So just one page report, and that's worth I think it's a 10 point, right? Full report. Let me see. Yeah, it's 10%, 10 points. So if you do the two reports, that's already 20 points you're gonna get. Now we'll continue. If we have any question, you can ask me later after the class.
The paper,
Which paper?
the paper you just copied.
Syllabus?
Yeah. Thank you.
You didn't get the syllabus either? If you're here at the first class or last week, you do have it. If this is your first time today, you do not have this. Okay, now it's fun time. We'll take a quiz quickly. You always love to do this, huh? So if you missed the last class, it's okay. Just do whatever you can, and I'll give you the answer later on. 오늘 퀴즈는 신경 안 쓰셔도 돼요. 방금 있다가 앉을 테니까요. 한번 정확히 치세요. Do you have your last week's quiz?
Yes.
There's a wrong answer I will give you.
Okay.
Okay. That's then number 5 is all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
我也是在上次演的台里边。
Last week I
You missed.
no, I told office I have something to do.
Okay. And then you check the attendance sheet?
No,
No?
no, because I told you.
Okay. Go ahead and do your quiz.
Also, I understand that.
回家写，写完了就要写一页，写读书感，对读书感。
写什么？
写读书感，
行啊，读什么书？
读一本书，一本书的第7页吧。
这本书
就是一会儿要不然把那个书的照片发群里去。
哦，对呀。
You check the color?
Yes.
Just I'll tell the answer and then just mark the right answer later. Okay? shall we go over the quiz together? Yeah, try to mark the right answer because you're going to need this. By end of the class, we are going to have final. In that final, the questions are coming out of the quiz. So please keep it, don't lose it, and you're gonna have the right answers today. Quiz number 2 starts with asking which of the following is not an evidence of an organized religion. Scripture, solid doctrine, global presence are the necessary, but shamans are not the significant factor in the organized religion. So answer is D. Yeah, last one, D. Number 2, a way to observe and interpret reality and the world around us is called B, worldview. Yeah, so worldview does interpret your reality. Number 3, all the ways of life, behavior, belief, institutions are such of a population that are passed down from generation to generation is called culture, A. The answer is an A, culture. Number 4, the habits, attitude, taste, moral standards, economic level, etc. that together constitute the mode of living of an individual or group is called C, lifestyle. And number 5, a search for a general understanding of values and reality by chiefly speculative rather than observational means is called B, philosophy. So philosophy is a speculation basically. Number 6, Christianity as philosophy interprets life, provides reasons, explains reality, and so all of the above is the answer for number 6. The answer is D. Number 7, the integrated assertions, theories, and aims that constitute a socio-political program is known as ideology. D. Answer is D. Ideology. So it's a political, social idea. Number 8, moral principle that governs a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity is called ethics. B, ethics. Answer is B, ethics. Number 9, Christian ethics does not include technology, relational ethics, work ethics, proper sexuality. The answer is A. Technology is not major part of Christian ethics. Number 10, a binding custom or practice of a community is known as the law. D. Go to your quiz and we'll continue with our lessons. So let's go over another example of how some scholars, some people, understand the church history or Christian history. I'll go quickly on this. This isn't just an example. We'll look into each of them later on. So, worship of Jesus Christ, then Jewish continuity, and then 3, post-apostolic church. So church after apostles, and then Christianity liberalized in Roman Empire, and the 5, church of early Middle Ages is year 476 to year 800, and then church of high Middle Age So there's the early Middle Age and the high Middle Age. And it goes until year 1499. That's how they understood. So in that there's crusade, east-west schism and western schism. Schism is a division or separation. Then church and the Italian Renaissance is somewhere there. And then number 8 is Protestant Reformation, just same thing, 1521. There are Martin Luther, John Calvin, and English Reformation. And Counter-Reformation, there is some resistance against Reformation, and that came from the secular world. And Great Awakening, Restoration, Fascism, Fundamentalism, Ecumenism are those reactions. Now, story of early church. Each subject here is worth just one long class. Some of them just make a living on studying one of those subjects here. So each subject are large subject, but we're just surveying it, going briefly on it. So I'm not going to explain every detail, but just get the idea. There are those things in Christian history. So those are some major important events. First, early fathers. Early fathers are those leaders right after apostles. I told you there are 12 apostles who have learned directly from Jesus Christ. So they learned face to face with Jesus. But when they all died, and then there are other leaders. Those are so-called early fathers. These are probably they use the word fathers in Catholic Church today too. So fathers, religious leaders, Christian leaders who were famous. For example, Saint Augustine is one of them. Saint Jerome is one of them. So there are those so-called famous Christian leaders in early, like a year 100 and after. Then Coptic Church. Coptic Church is Egyptian church, and Coptic Church still exists. So all these church that we know of still existing is a Coptic Church. And this Egyptian church began as early as some other churches, Ephesian church, Corinthian churches. They all began the same. So the Coptic Church has a long tradition, and they believe in their own ways. Probably Coptic Church today in Egypt, they sustain the oldest form of Christianity. So that's why the Coptic Church is important. Another church that we need to notice in the ancient early time is Ethiopian church. Ethiopian church was one of the first church in Africa, and the reason that Ethiopian church is started is because of Jewish diaspora who moved from Jerusalem, Israel, to Ethiopia. The reason for that is because some believe the ark is in Ethiopia. Ark, the gold box that Moses carried when they come out of Egypt. Some believe that it is still in Ethiopia. So there are like Ethiopian Jews at the time of Jesus, and then they moved to just avoid persecutions, went to Ethiopia and built a church there. So that's the history of the Ethiopian church, and the Ethiopian church is also one of the oldest church in Christian history. And then we have Mediterranean expansion. Since the beginning of the church, first area to expand the church, the Christianity was is Asian Minor, which is the northern part of Egypt. Now where the Syria is. So Syria has a lot of those old things, Christian things in their land. And part of Lebanon and part of Iraq, those are where the first churches developed. Then after that, another area that church has developed is around the Mediterranean Sea. So Rome, then Greece, and Spain, Portugal, and then also now where's Libya, Morocco. Those are the areas where the first Christianity expanded. So they have those early churches in that land. Then church began to expand into Greco-Roman world. I just said that. So Greco-Roman Empire is a part of Mediterranean church. And then we have Latin Europe. Latin Europe is Spain, Portugal, and Italia. These are the Latin Europe. So those are major Mediterranean area where the Christianity expanded at early stage. So that's how it began. And then it goes to the Northern Europe. So Northern Europe early church includes Vikings, Celtics, and Germans, and Franco-Roman Empire. Franco-Roman Empire is now of a province of France and some near Belgium. These are the Franco area. So Christianity moves from Mediterranean Europe to north, because it's not because they wanted to expand it to the Northern Europe, but Vikings, those people, they invaded Europe, and then they came across Christianity and took back to their country. You know, Vikings, Norway, Sweden, Finland, those are the areas where the old Vikings lived. And then they took Christianity from this Europe into their country. So early on, the Vikings are the agents. They become the agents who spread the Christian religion. And that's how it began in the Northern Europe. So all the Europe, by the end of 4th century, the Christianity expanded to the most part of the Europe. And that's where it kind of began to settle down and flourish later on. So if you're interested, there are many books, good books on Christian history. You can just, maybe you can go online and read Wikipedia portion of Christian history or church history. If you Google it, their informations are mostly correct. So you don't have to devote too much time on it, but it's just several pages long. So if you're interested, I welcome you to go and read those things. Middle Age, which is also called the Dark Age of Christianity, because in Middle Age Europe, Middle Age Europe is a Christian Europe. There's no doubt about it. And it is no mistake to say the Middle Age Europe is ruled by Christian faith and Christian belief. But it was dark because Christian religion was corrupt. And it's sad to say that, but even today, many churches are corrupt. They are not what the church should be, because it's because of a human, ego and human desire, human lust. Because of money, church become corrupt. Same thing happened. At that time, it was money plus power. Because church has all the power. Not only had all the power, because they have the power, they had all the land. So when you own the land, you are powerful. The church controlled everything in Europe. And once you have that power, there's no way to escape corruption. The church becomes corrupt, and being a monk becomes a popular thing. Same thing happened with Buddhism as well. When Buddhism flourished and it became powerful, everyone wanted to become a Buddhist monk. Same thing happened with the Christian church. So in the Dark Age, Middle Age, everyone wanted to become a monk, because a monk, and if you become a monk or a monastery people, you don't have to go to war. So you can avoid being killed. In the Middle Age, there were a lot of wars against, even crusade. And if you're those powerful people, you don't want to send your children to the war and get killed. So what they did, go become a monk and go into the monastery. Monastery is a place where these monks come and study. They only study and eat and work in the farm. So even though working in the farm is kind of heavy labor, it's better than being killed in the battle. So that's what happened in the Middle Age. The church became powerful, they corrupted, and then they begin to sell something called indulgence. Indulgence is a copy of a paper, and if you pay a lot of money, then you are going to be saved. So they sell the salvation. The church begins to do that. So they are selling the salvation with a paper, and if you have that document, just like you have visa, you can enter the kingdom. So all you needed a visa to come to this country, and probably some of you may come into the school to sustain your visa. So the visa is very important. And some thought, because people wanted to get saved, to make sure that they enter the heaven. So they say, you pay money, I'll give you this document, and you'll go to heaven for sure, which is a lie. You don't. There's no way that you can buy a paper and get a visa to the heaven. But in the Middle Age, that had happened. So that's the dark side of Christian history. And the thing is, that same thing is still happening today in a church. That's why some people criticize and finger a church. And today, difficult to think to be a pastor, because many people believe pastors are no longer, they are to be respected, because many pastors work for the money, and some churches pay a lot of money to their pastors, especially Korean churches, and I know of some churches pay $10 million per year. $10 million per year.
10 million.
That's a lot of money. I can't believe that. But it is true. $10 million per year for salary.
Wow, crazy.
And some of those Korean mega churches do that.
Wow.
So no wonder some people want to be a pastor, because they think it's paying a lot. So that's a dark age, and at the same time, in dark age, there's a rise of Islam, and so the Muhammad was born like in early 200 something, and then the Islam church begins to grow among the Middle East, especially Turkey, and then they become a very powerful force in Mediterranean area. So the Catholic Church thinking, I mean, they should control Jerusalem and Israel, and then now the Turks are controlling that area. So they thought it is not right that Islam is controlling the Holy Land, so-called Holy Land. So they begin a campaign, the so-called campaign, which is a military campaign, and so fight against Islam. That's crusade. So whole European church against Islam. That's the history of crusade. That's why still the Islam people are hating Christianity, because of that story of crusade. And you should never say that word crusade in Middle East countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, especially Iraq, these countries. They are the ones who suffered from crusade. Many millions and millions of Islam were killed by Christians. So this is like a dark history in Christian age. And there's something called Orthodox churches. Any of us Russian here? From Russia? Or those Russian republics of old communists, the Soviet Union? If they are so, you're familiar with the Russian Orthodox Church. And we have something called the Greek Orthodox Church. These are some of the Orthodox churches. These Orthodox churches are the old churches, just like the Coptic churches, Ethiopian churches, they began. And they did not follow the Catholic tradition, because the Church of West is Italian church and Roman church. They were separated from these Orthodox churches. So Orthodox churches are also called East Church, Eastern Church or East Church, because they were separated from the Western Church. So Western Church becomes now the Catholic Church with the Roman Pope. So Pope in Rome, he's the one who is still the top leader of Catholic Church, but those Orthodox churches are separated from those Western churches. So they do not, belong to Pope or Roman Church. And so that's the major history. If you were to this is just common knowledge to understand Christianity. So Protestant Church, West Catholic Church, and Orthodox Church. These are three major line of churches today. And it began in the Middle Age. So that's where it all began. The reason for the division between the Catholic Church and Orthodox Church is not so much has to do with the doctrine. Doctrine is a secondary thing. It has to do with the papal power, meaning who controls the church. And they didn't want to be controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. So they say, we are going to be independent. We are going to be our own congregation. So that's how the Orthodox Church was formed.
Teacher, how about the British?
British?
Yeah.
The Church of Britain, they separated from a Catholic Church when there was a Reformation. So like in Europe, Martin Luther and John Calvin was a leader in that movement. But at the same time, Catholic Church did not have a particular leader, but they say we are also going to be Bible focused, and the Rome should not control us. We are going to be independent. So they become their own church is called Anglican. So Anglican is born when the Reformation happened. So that's when the Church of England was became independent churches. So they have when you go to Anglican churches today, and also Lutheran churches are the one major Reformation church. They have a pretty similar rituals, more similar to Catholic tradition, but they believe in the Protestant faith. So that's how they kind of hybrid. Okay. Reformation, here we come. The reason for Reformation is this. Catholic Church was corrupted, like I said. They even sell the salvation for the money, exchange of money. So papal authority, the Pope, and all the priests, not all of them, but many of them were corrupted. So there were people who were against that kind of corruption. And one major figure was Martin Luther. And he thought, this is not good. And then he writes a 96 statement asking the question to the Pope. And you should answer these questions. And there are 96 kind of questions, or the statement against the papal authority. And then he sticks that statement in the large cathedral, famous cathedral at the door. And it becomes a big issue. So that's how it began. And then there were many people who were feeling the church is corrupted and we need to reformation. So the word reformation is change from within, actually, but that did not happen. So they built a separate group of people, and they call themselves reformers or Protestants. So the Protestant means to resist, against. So the main thing is Bible in Latin. The Bible was in Latin and Greek. And most people were not educated in Latin or Greek. So they are not able to read the Bible, even though there are Bible available. So some began to translate that Bible into their own language. And that becomes a big issue. I'll just go on in more detail later on when we study about the Bible. But that's what happened. So Latin version, Greek version of Bible is being translated and printed in numbers, in many copies. And the Bible becomes not only cheaper, but those who learned to read and write English or French, they now are able to read the Bible in their own language. So, think about, if they still have a Latin Bible, who can read? I don't know the Latin language, so I cannot read. But I have a Korean Bible, and you guys have Chinese, Japanese Bible. So that's translated, and now you can read it in your own language. So that's the beginning of the Reformation. So Reformation, the key factor is the translation of Bible. So people in general were able to read the Bible, and they now know the teachings from those priests are not right. You cannot sell the salvation according to Bible. And so they now know they are the leaders are wrong, and they go against it. Same thing happened with the political thing. I mean, democracy. When you learn, there are people who are enjoying the full freedom as a person, politically, socially, economically, in every other ways. Then now you're challenged. And those who have been living under the pressure, under the dictatorship, they now know this is not right. That's why there is a so-called revolution, democratic revolution. So the same thing happened in that church. So I told you about selling of indulgence, and I told you about the England already, because there were questions. And then monasteries. Monasteries work two ways. It's like a knife with a both edge. It cuts both ways. Monasteries were the source of corruption because they owned land. At the same time, there were many excellent scholars, biblical scholars who learned the Bible in Latin language, were able to understand. And they were not the priests. The monks were not priests. Many monks, they study the scripture, and they pray, eat and pray and work. That's all they did. So while they were praying and studying, they found out what the authority, the priest and the pope was teaching was not right. Thus, the monastery also becomes the ground, the source of Reformation. So it worked both ways. It became the place of corruption. At the same time, they were the source of that Reformation and renewal. The monastery in Europe is very important. There are famous monasteries still doing their works, like Jesuits, those are still existing. Franciscans, they are still existing. These are years and years old monasteries, and those monasteries takes a very critical part for making a Protestant religion. Okay. We'll cover this far, okay? The Enlightenment and Renaissance. These are the times when the European people in general, the general population, like not the farmers, but they were like the elites who has the power, and then there are general people, and there were farmers, and then there were slaves. So those, not the peasants, but the general public, general people now are learned, they are educated, because there were like colleges and schools. They did not have elementary schools nowadays, but they had what they call monastery schools. So monastery becomes a place of learning, education. So people begin to think, and they become knowledgeable, and because of that, the Enlightenment and Renaissance begins. So people become more intellectual, smart, and knowledgeable. That's how the change has begun. So it is very important for Christian history to understand about the Enlightenment and Renaissance. So intellectualism, meaning that intellect, thinking, knowledge becomes a very important thing. Before, when people are in dark age, middle age, being religious means not being so intellectual. You don't have to learn. You just sit and pray and become emotional, and you are okay. You're a good Christian. Not anymore. You have to learn, and you gotta know the Bible, And you have to know the doctrines, and these things now happen. And Renaissance and Enlightenment, it helps Christianity to become more strong. That's what happened during that period of time. We'll continue on the subject next week, and have a nice day, and see you next week.
Thank you.
And please, do prepare for this. You have only 2 weeks to